The galactic invitation, the ships appeared without warning on a Tuesday morning, hanging in Earth's orbit like silver tears against the black canvas of space. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the observation deck window of Luna Station, watching the alien vessels with a mixture of wonder and unease. 3 massive craft, each the size of a small city, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly luminescence that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. "First contact," whispered Dr. Sarah Kim, the xenobiologist standing beside her. "After all these years of searching the stars, they came to us." Alina nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. In her 30 years of military service, she had learned to trust her instincts. These ships hadn't announced themselves. They hadn't sent signals or warnings. They had simply arrived, as if Earth belonged to them already. The communication came 3 hours later, broadcast simultaneously to every major government on Earth. The voice was melodic, almost hypnotically beautiful, speaking perfect English, with just a hint of something otherworldly in its cadence. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Prosperity Alliance. We come bearing gifts of knowledge, technology, and brotherhood. Your species has reached the threshold of galactic citizenship. We invite you to join us in prosperity." The message was, accompanied by images that took humanity's breath away, cities that floated among the clouds, technology that seemed like magic, beings from dozens of different worlds living in harmony. It was everything humanity had dreamed of when they first looked up at the stars. Alina found herself in the emergency session of the Global Defense Council 12 hours later. The room was packed with world leaders, scientists, and military officials, all buzzing with excitement and nervous energy. At the center of it all sat Director Marcus Chen, a man whose calm demeanor had guided Earth through 3 different crisis situations in the past decade. "They want to meet," Chen announced to the room. "Representatives from the Alliance are requesting permission to land at the neutral zone in Switzerland. They're calling it a partnership ceremony." General Patricia Williams, head of the Space Defense Initiative, leaned forward. "What do we know about their capabilities, their intentions?" According to their preliminary data packets, the Alliance consists of over 200 species across 47 star systems. Dr. Kim replied, her tablet glowing with alien script and diagrams. "They've been observing us for approximately 50 years, waiting for us to develop faster-than-light communication capabilities, which we just achieved last month," Alina muttered, thinking of the quantum entanglement communicator that had been her project for the past 5 years. Chen nodded grimly. "The timing is not coincidental. They've been waiting for this moment." The meeting was set for the following week. Alina was chosen to lead the human delegation, her background in both military strategy and diplomatic relations making her the ideal candidate. As she prepared for what might be the most important meeting in human history, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something much larger than they understood. The alien representative was unlike anything Alina had imagined. Ambassador Zethkar stood nearly 8 feet tall, with silvery skin that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. Its features were vaguely humanoid but elongated, with large eyes that held depths Alina couldn't fathom. When it spoke, its voice carried that same hypnotic quality they had heard in the initial broadcast. "Captain Vasquez," Zethkar said, extending what might have been a hand in greeting. "We are pleased to finally meet humanity's representatives. Your species shows remarkable promise." The ceremony took place in a temporary dome structure that the aliens had erected overnight. Inside, the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy, and Alina noticed that all of their electronic devices had stopped functioning the moment they entered. The advancement protocol, Zethkar explained, gesturing to a crystalline tablet that hovered between them, is our gift to emerging species. Technology that will solve your energy crisis, eliminate disease, extend your lifespans, and open the stars to your people. Alina studied the holographic display that appeared above the tablet. The technology was breathtaking. Fusion reactors, the size of briefcases, medical nanobots that could repair any injury, ships that could cross galaxies in days rather than centuries. It was everything humanity needed to step into a golden age. "What's the cost?" Alina asked directly. Zethkar's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those deep eyes. "Cost is such a limiting concept, Captain. Think of it as participation. Your species would become junior partners in the Alliance. You would contribute your unique perspectives and capabilities to our collective prosperity." Elena's military training kicked in. When someone avoided answering a direct question, they were usually hiding something important. "I'd like to review the complete terms before we proceed." "Of course," Zethkar replied smoothly, "though I should mention that the protocol has a limited window of availability. Your species' development trajectory suggests this opportunity may not present itself again for several centuries." That night, Alina worked with a team of Earth's best linguists, lawyers, and computer scientists to decode the full agreement. What they found made her blood run cold. Buried in subsections, written in alien legal terminology, were clauses that essentially made humanity a client species. Earth's resources would be managed by Alliance oversight committees. Human reproduction would be regulated to prevent overpopulation. Cultural practices deemed disruptive to galactic harmony would be phased out. Most chilling of all, any human technology or scientific advancement would become Alliance property by default. "It's not partnership," Alina told the Emergency Council. "Session at 3 in the morning. It's absorption. They're offering to solve all our problems in exchange for our independence." Director Chen rubbed his tired eyes. "What about the benefits?" "The technology they're offering could save billions of lives. At the cost of our future as a free species," Alina replied. "Look at subsection 47C. Any Alliance member species that fails to meet productivity quotas can have their guidance level increased. I've been researching what that means." She pulled up a series of images on the main screen. "These are the Cathara, a species that joined the Alliance 300 years ago. They were artists, poets, philosophers. Now look at them." The images showed beings that looked almost robotic in their movements, their faces blank and emotionless. As they performed repetitive tasks in massive industrial complexes, they were re-educated for optimal productivity. Alina continued. Their culture, their art, their individual thoughts, all of it was deemed inefficient and replaced with Alliance-approved alternatives. The room fell silent. General Williams was the first to speak. "So what are you recommending, Captain?" Alina looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some looked hopeful, others terrified, but all of them were looking to her for guidance. She thought about humanity's long history of struggling against impossible odds, of refusing to bow down even when the smart choice was surrender. "I recommend we decline their offer." The response was immediate and explosive. Half the room erupted. In arguments about the benefits they would be giving up, the other half expressing relief that someone had finally said what they were all thinking. Chen called for order. "Captain, you understand what you're suggesting. We would be turning down technology that could transform our civilization." "Yes, sir, but we would be keeping our civilization. Our freedom to make our own mistakes, to grow at our own pace, to remain human. The vote was close, closer than Alina had hoped. But in the end, humanity chose independence over easy prosperity. The meeting with Zethkar the next day was tense. Alina delivered Earth's decision with military precision. The people of Earth appreciate the Alliance's offer, but we must respectfully decline. We prefer to develop as an independent species. For the first time since their arrival, Zethkar's composure cracked. You cannot be serious. No species has ever refused the protocol. The benefits we offer are beyond your current comprehension, perhaps. They are, Alina replied calmly, but they come at a price we're not willing to pay. You will regret this decision, Zethkar said, its voice losing all pretense of friendliness. Your species lacks the wisdom to guide itself. Without alliance, guidance, you will destroy yourselves within a century. Alina stood up from the negotiating table. Maybe we will, but it will be our choice to make. As the alien ships departed Earth's orbit that afternoon, Alina watched from Lunar Station once again. This time, Dr. Kim wasn't beside her. She was down on Earth, leading a crash program to reverse engineer what little alien technology they had been able to scan during the meetings. Think we made the right choice? Asked Director Chen, joining her at the observation window. Alina watched the silver ships disappear into the starfield. Ask me again in 100 years. But I'd rather face an uncertain future as free humans than a certain one as Alliance pets. What Alina didn't know was that their refusal had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. In the 2 centuries since the Alliance had been formed, no species had ever said no to the protocol. The news spread through official channels and underground networks alike, carrying a simple but revolutionary message. Refusal was possible. On distant worlds where Alliance oversight had slowly strangled the joy out of entire civilizations, beings looked up at their regulated skies and wondered what it might be like to be free again. The humans, these strange creatures from a small blue world, had shown them something they had forgotten was possible: the courage to say no. The price of independence 6 months after the Alliance ships left Earth's orbit. The consequences of humanity's refusal began to manifest in ways that even Alina Vasquez hadn't anticipated. She stood in the command center of the newly constructed Deep Space Monitoring Station, watching incoming reports from across human space with growing concern. "They're not attacking us directly," reported General Sarah Torres, Elena's new second-in-command, "but they're making sure we feel isolated." The data was clear and troubling. Every human exploration ship that ventured beyond the solar system encountered the same response: polite but firm warnings to return to their home system. Trade vessels were turned away from stations they had never known existed. Most unsettling of all, human communications were being systematically blocked from reaching potential alien contacts. Dr. Kenji Nakamura, the brilliant xenobiologist who had joined their team after the initial contact, highlighted several star systems on the holographic display. "We're detecting artificial interference patterns around these locations. The Alliance isn't just ignoring us, they're actively preventing other species from making contact with humanity." Alina studied the patterns with growing unease. "They're quarantining us, making sure we can't spread our dangerous ideas about independence to other species." "It gets worse," General Torres continued, pulling up another set of data. "Our deep space sensors are picking up increased military activity in 12 different systems, ships moving in formation, resource allocations being redirected. They're preparing for something big." Alina rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of her decision 6 months ago. Had she doomed humanity to eventual conquest by refusing the Alliance's initial offer? What's our defensive capability? Honestly, pathetic compared to what we've observed of Alliance technology, Torres replied bluntly. But we're not sitting idle. Dr. Nakamura's team has made some interesting discoveries. Kenji stepped forward, his usual calm demeanor hiding an excitement that Alina had learned to recognize. The scans we took of their ships during the initial contact revealed something important. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly standardized. Every ship, every device, every system follows the same basic design principles, meaning, Alina prompted, meaning it's vulnerable to coordinated disruption. Their strength is also their weakness. They've become so dependent on standardized systems that they may have lost the ability to adapt quickly to truly novel approaches. Alina felt a spark of hope. You're talking about asymmetric warfare, using our unpredictability as a weapon. Exactly. But we need more information about how their systems actually work. And we need allies. That last word hung in the air with particular weight. Alina had been thinking the same thing for weeks. Humanity couldn't stand alone against an alliance of 200 species. They needed friends, and finding them was proving more difficult than anticipated. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Park, a communications specialist who had been analyzing the interference patterns around human space, burst into the command center with barely contained excitement. They're not perfect, she announced, throwing data onto the main display. The communication blocks have gaps, tiny windows where signals can get through, probably caused by the interaction between multiple Alliance jamming systems. Alina studied the complex mathematical models Park had developed. Can we exploit these gaps? Already working on it. I've managed to send 3 test signals beyond the quarantine zone. But here's the interesting part. I've received responses. The room fell silent. Alina felt her heart rate increase. Responses from whom? That's what we need to find out. The signals are heavily encrypted and use transmission methods I've never seen before. But they're definitely artificial, definitely intelligent, and definitely not from Alliance systems. Over the following weeks, Park's team worked around the clock to decode the mysterious signals. What they discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. The messages were coming from at least 6 different sources spread across the galaxy, all using different technologies, but sharing one common element. They were all trying to communicate in secret. The first clear message came through 3 weeks later, and Alina was called to the communications center in the middle of the night to hear it. The voice was unlike anything they had encountered before. Crystalline, like wind chimes made of metal, speaking in carefully pronounced English. People of Earth, we are the resonance collective of the Vithari system. We have heard of your refusal of the advancement protocol. You are not alone in your desire for independence. We must be careful in our communications, as Alliance monitoring is extensive, but we wish you to know that resistance exists. Alina looked at Park in amazement. How many others are there? Based on the signal analysis, we're detecting at least 20 different sources trying to communicate with us. And Captain... Park's voice dropped to a whisper. I think some of them are species that supposedly joined the Alliance willingly centuries ago. The implications were staggering. If Alliance member species were secretly communicating with humanity, it meant that the supposed galactic prosperity might not be as voluntary as Zethkar had claimed. The second major breakthrough came from Dr. Nakamura's engineering team. Working with salvaged data from the Alliance ship scans, They had been attempting to develop countermeasures to Alliance technology. What they created instead was something far more valuable. "It's not a weapon," Kenji explained, gesturing to the device on his laboratory table. It looked like a crystalline flower made of metal and light, about the size of a human head. "It's a translator and communication amplifier, but it's built using principles we've learned from studying Alliance tech, combined with uniquely human engineering approaches." Alina approached the device cautiously. "What does it do?" "It can break through Alliance communication blocks, translate virtually any language pattern in real time, and most importantly, it can establish secure quantum-encrypted channels across galactic distances. You've created a way for us to talk to potential allies without the Alliance knowing," Alina realized. "Not just talk," Kenji smiled. "Share technology, coordinate actions, build actual relationships." The Alliance has been controlling galactic communication for so long that they've forgotten how to deal with truly independent networks. The first real Alliance meeting took place 2 months later, conducted entirely through the new communication network. Alina found herself speaking with representatives from 8 different species, all of whom had been living under Alliance control for decades or centuries. Asterisk. The stories they told were remarkably similar to what Alina had suspected. Species after species had accepted the advancement protocol, only to find themselves slowly losing their independence. Cultural practices were banned as inefficient. Scientific research was redirected toward Alliance priorities. Individual creativity was discouraged in favor of collective productivity. But most disturbing was what they learned about the Alliance's expansion methods. The Cathara, whose images Alina had shown to the Earth Council, had not simply been re-educated. They had been subjected to systematic neurological modification, their brains altered to make them more compliant and less individualistic. "The protocol isn't just about controlling resources," explained Desiska, a representative of the Helix Confederacy. "It's about controlling minds. They offer prosperity in exchange for the one thing that makes a species truly alive, the ability to choose their own path." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. How many species have been subjected to this treatment? In the past century alone, 47, all presented as voluntary participants in galactic civilization. The conversation continued for hours, with each species sharing what they knew about Alliance operations, weaknesses, and potential vulnerabilities. By the end of it, Alina realized that humanity had stumbled into something much larger than a simple refusal of an Alliance membership. They had become the catalyst for the first galactic resistance movement in centuries. The Alliance response came 3 months later, swift and decisive. Alina was in the command center when the alerts started cascading across every screen. Massive fleet movements, resources being redirected, and most ominously, complete communication blackouts around 17 different star systems. "They're not just targeting us anymore," General Torres reported grimly. "Every system that's been in contact with us is being isolated. They're implementing what looks like martial law across their controlled territories." Alina watched the tactical display with growing horror. Red zones spread across the galaxy like an infection, marking systems under Alliance military control. "They're scared," she realized. "We've shown their subject species that resistance is possible, and now they're cracking down to prevent an uprising." Dr. Nakamura joined them in the command center, his face pale. "I've been monitoring Alliance communications through our network. They're not just implementing martial law, they're accelerating the neurological modification programs. Species that have been their allies for centuries are being subjected to the same compliance treatments as the weight of responsibility crashed down on Alina like a physical force. By refusing the Alliance's offer, humanity had triggered a galactic-wide crackdown on freedom. Billions of beings were losing what remained of their independence because humans had dared to say no. "We have to do something," she said quietly. "What can we do?" Torres asked. "We're one species against an empire of 200. We don't have the military strength to fight them directly." Alina looked at the communications device Kenji had built, still humming quietly in the corner. "We don't fight them directly. We do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We adapt, we innovate, and we refuse to give up." Over the following weeks, Elena's team worked with their hidden allies to develop what they called the Liberation Protocol. It wasn't a military strategy. Humanity simply didn't have the resources for that. Instead, it was something uniquely human, a virus of ideas. Using the quantum communication network, they began broadcasting something the Alliance had tried to suppress for centuries: the concept of individual choice. Not propaganda or political messages, but simple demonstrations of human creativity, ingenuity, and determination. Music, art, scientific discoveries, philosophical discussions, and most importantly, stories of humans choosing difficult paths because they believed in freedom. The effect was gradual but undeniable. Across Alliance-controlled space, beings began to remember what they had lost. Some started small acts of defiance, creating unauthorized art, asking forbidden questions, making individual choices in a society that had eliminated choice. Others began more organized resistance, using the communication protocols humanity had shared to coordinate with like-minded beings on other worlds. The Alliance found themselves fighting something they couldn't contain, the simple but revolutionary idea that sapient beings had the right to determine their own futures. The final confrontation came not as Alina had expected. Instead of massive fleets and military campaigns, Ambassador Zethkar returned to Earth, alone, 6 months after Alina had thought she'd seen the last of the Alliance. This time, the meeting took place on humanity's terms, in Elena's own command center, surrounded by the technological achievements that humans had developed in their year of isolation. "Your species has caused considerable disruption," Zeth said, its voice lacking the hypnotic quality Alina remembered. "The Alliance is prepared to offer revised terms for your integration." Alina studied the alien representative carefully. Zethkar looked different, smaller, somehow less imposing. "I'm listening. Full technological exchange, immediate elevation to senior partnership status, complete autonomy over Earth's internal affairs, and representation on the Alliance Council. More than any species has ever been offered." Alina almost smiled. "And, in exchange, you cease your communications with dissident elements. You stop spreading ideas of independence to Alliance member species. You help us restore order to the galaxy." Alina walked to the observation window, looking out at Earth hanging in space below. The planet still bore scars from centuries of environmental damage, but new green growth was visible across entire continents. Humanity was healing their world the hard way, through effort and determination rather than alien technology. "Counteroffer," Alina said, turning back to Zeth. "The Alliance dissolves its control over member species. All neurological modification programs end immediately. Every sapient being in Alliance space gets to choose their own future, whether that's remaining in a voluntary confederation or striking out on their own." Zethkar's composure finally cracked completely. impossible. Without guidance, these species will destroy themselves. They lack the wisdom too. They lack the freedom to prove you wrong. Alina interrupted, just like you. Thought we would destroy ourselves. How's that prediction working out? Alina gestured to the displays around the command center, showing human colonies on 3 different moons. Asteroid mining operations run entirely by human technology. And the quantum communication network that now connected dozens of species across the galaxy. We didn't just survive your isolation, Ambassador. We thrived. And we've helped others remember how to thrive too. Zethkar was silent for a long moment. When it finally spoke, its voice was barely above a whisper. If we dissolve the Alliance structure, chaos will consume the galaxy. Maybe, Alina admitted, but it will be chosen chaos, not imposed order. And knowing humans, knowing the allies we've made over this past year, I think you'll be surprised by what sapient beings can accomplish when they're free to try. Zethkar left Earth that day without an agreement, but also without threats. 3 months later, the first Alliance member species formally declared independence. Within a year, the Alliance as a controlling structure had essentially collapsed, replaced by a loose confederation of truly voluntary partnerships. Humanity never did get the advanced technology the Alliance had originally offered. Instead, they got something far more valuable, the knowledge that they had helped restore freedom to a galaxy that had almost forgotten what the word meant. Alina, now promoted to Admiral and serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, often looked up at the stars and marveled at how a simple word, no, had changed everything. Humanity had turned its back on easy prosperity and instead chose the harder path of independence. In doing so, they had reminded the galaxy that the greatest technology any species could possess was the courage to choose their own destiny. Asterisk.